PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
It's Kim versus TC in the battle of the lists.
My list is better.
My list is better.
My list is better.
No, it's not. My list is better.
Kim or TC, who has the better list? From Subject Cinema, this is Front Row 5 and 10 with Kim Brown and TC Kirkham.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another week here on Front Row 5 and 10, brought to you by the good people that bring you Subject Cinema. That would be me and him, the me being Kim Brown.
And the him being TC Kirkham. I'm sorry for laughing. This is our second attempt at this. I just really screwed up by leaving her mic off the first time. Thank goodness we didn't get too far into it. Welcome to Front Row 5 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
And we are at a milestone this week.
Yay! Woo! Confetti!
We have
Parades.
a listener list to do.
Woo! Yes, we do.
From KJ and Jeff at Great Wrestling Radio.
Yes.
Who have been listening to us on several shows since they found Kim's show, Ring Around the Rosie.
Yes.
Congratulations, guys. Yay! You're going to be our first listener list.
And because we figured that you're both on the Twitter feed, which is where you found me and where we talk and stuff, you're both going to get a prize. We're going to split the prize anyway.
Yeah, we're going to send you a $20 Amazon gift card. Shoot Kim your information, and she'll get it to me, and I'll get it to you.
Yeah, we'll split that in half. Be glad you didn't win a puppy.
Ew. Dead puppy.
It's getting close to Halloween, so I'm going to start getting really bad.
Anyway.
Yes. So anyway, KJ and Jeff sent us the idea to do a list of our top 10 favorite guitar players. So this is going to be really cool because we both love music, and I gotta be honest, most of mine are leaning more toward metal, but you are all over the road as
I love listening to all different types of music.
Well, so do I.
Yeah, but I am. You have to admit, my tastes are more eclectic than yours.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're metal and a little bit of pop, a little bit of country, a little bit of classical.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of everything except maybe opera. So
you liked Yodel It from the
Yodel It was an awesome song.
Eurovision, so that's.
I'm a Eurovision fan too. If you haven't figured that out,
at least you're not a Jedward fan.
Oh God! Now don't be insulting.
All right.
Honestly,
okay. So, since we both have runners up for a change, but I think you should start because you've got a longer runners up list.
There's so many lists. Yes, she already heard it once. There's so many good guitars out there, and I love me some good guitar work.
Oh yeah,
I'm a sucker for good guitar. I'm a sucker for good keyboard, and I'm really a sucker for good saxophone.
Yeah.
So it's like okay.
He's also a sucker for the sousaphone and the pan flute.
I am not.
And clog dancing.
I like river dance. There's nothing wrong with river dance.
River dance and clog dancing are completely different.
They're not any different. They're just done differently. They're the same exact thing.
And anybody out there who clog dances for fun, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just being a pain.
Some of my runners up, I'm all over the road, and I admit that. I like all kinds of music. But I have to admit, the late Steve Clark and Phil Collin from Def Leppard, practically my favorite rock band.
We should bring up Phil Collin is not late, just so you know.
No, but if he keeps up that vegan lifestyle, he could be.
Shush.
Slash from Guns N' Roses, of course. Lita Ford, great guitarist. Steve Vai, William Elwood, awesome New Age guitarist. Les Paul, Chet Atkins, Tony Mottola, Friedman, another great New Age guitarist. Jimi Hendrix. A guy we've just seen on AGT this year, Marcin Petrozellic. Really good flamenco stuff. And Edgar Winter. There's so many good ones that aren't on my top 10.
Right. But your number 10 is?
My number 10 is a guy I first heard when I was doing third shift at a convenience store when I was much, much younger, because I listened to the Blitz in Columbus, Ohio, and they played a lot of good heavy metal and hard rock and, unfortunately, grunge and some other stuff. My number 10 is Eric Johnson. Eric is probably best known for his 91 hit Cliffs of Dover, but he's a very eclectic artist. I mean, Cliffs of Dover is still a staple on rock radio. You never get away from it. But I like a lot of his later stuff. He had an album in the late 90s where he did a great song called Battle We Have Won, which has this great guitar solo in it. And his most recent album, or one of his most recent albums, he's actually gotten chorded jazz and stuff into it. And a great song called Water Under the Bridge, which is actually all piano. Great vocal from him. I didn't know he sang until the later albums.
Right.
So he's really great. I love his stuff, and I could listen to it all day. Eric Johnson, number 10.
Okay. My runners-up list is not as long as his. My runners-up include Stevie Ray Vaughan, amazing guitar player. And also the Mr. Slowhand himself, Eric Clapton. I love his acoustic version of Layla. I just love it to pieces. And also Jimi Hendrix, because let's face it, the man lit a guitar on fire and also played the guitar with his teeth, and that's just awesome.
Hendrix is great, but he does that fuzzy sound stuff, which kind of gets on my nerves. I don't.
It's kind of a precursor to the Bow Chicka Bow Wow stuff from the 70s. But number 10 on my list is actually someone that you don't usually think of when you think of a guitar player. My number 10 is Prince, who we lost entirely too soon. You know, people usually think of Prince as a singer, you know, and the front man of the Revolution, of the New Power generation, of whatever the heck they called the band when he was a symbol for a while. But he also was an amazing guitar player. You can definitely hear it on a song like Let's Go Crazy. And the thing is, when you watched him play guitar, that was a show in and of itself, because he looked like he was having sex with the guitar. He just, he had that sensual magnetism about him, and I'm pretty sure there'd be a long line of guitars that would like to be played by Prince, because the way he held the guitar, the way he...
Oh, you make it sound so sleazy. Jeez.
I'm not trying to make it sound sleazy. Sexy, yes. Sleazy comes later. But that's my number 10, Prince.
Okay. My number 9 is responsible for, one of the two people responsible for getting me into some of the more bluesy guitars. I was not a big blues fan for the longest time. I don't know, I didn't really get into it, but I've more recently, in the last 25 years or so, which is recent for me, I've gotten into some different blues, and it's thanks to a couple of different people, and he's one of them at number 9, Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Kenny started his career at 16 on national level. He'd been playing in local clubs, and I think he's from Alabama, since he was a preteen. And I mean, this guy, I've never got to see him in concert. I'd still like to. He's just terrific. Made me a big fan of bluesy music. But I actually like somebody else in blues a little bit better. We'll find out here in a minute. But I think his guitar work, combined with the different people he's worked with for vocalists and other instrumentation, and he's actually gone back and done some really old-fashioned, old-school blues too, which is different.
Right.
But I love to hear his version, whether it's the kind of a fast blues or one of the really achingly good slow blues songs. They're all, everything he does is awesome, and I can never get enough of him. Number 9, Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Okay. Number 9 on my list is someone who was part of the metal explosion, partially that was done by MTV.
Boom.
Yeah. We got, once MTV came along and we could see the bands, and some of us realized, hey, these guys are really good looking. Yes, I was very...
In about 60% of the cases.
Yeah.
And then you have the members of Rat, and the members of Motley Crue, and a couple of other bands, which are not something you would actually want to bring home to Mom.
My number 9 is from the band Cinderella. The guitarist Eric Brittenham from Cinderella, who was just... Now, the thing about Cinderella that's really interesting is when they started, they were glam, and they were, hard rock. You had songs like Shake Me, Nobody's Fool, and Eric's work is really, really prominent on those. When they started getting into some later stuff like, like Don't Know What You've Got Till It's Gone or Falling Apart at the Seams and things like that, their style changed a little bit. It was still metal, but it had more of a bluesiness to it, and Eric really just kind of went with the change and adapted with it really well. I thought he is still an amazing guitar player. He had a really, really good stage presence. You watch him play, and it's really something to watch him work. So my number 9, Eric Brittenham from Cinderella.
Okay.
And it didn't hurt that he was tall and blonde and handsome.
Not for the shallow Kim that she was in the late 80s.
Woman
early 90s.
needs, don't judge.
My number 8 is the premier of jazz guitarist on my list. I've always loved this guy. And whether he's playing on his own with one of his groups, he has the group and he has the trio. They're two different things. Mm-hmm. Pat Metheny has been a part of my listening for a long time. Mm-hmm. Kim will tell you, when I was younger, when I was still living in Ohio, I heard his classic Last Train Home. It was on the radio all the time when I listened to this New Age station. Hadn't heard it for years and forgot about it until they used it in an Emmy-winning special here in Boston called A Ride on the Blue Line.
Yep.
It was used in the public access version, mm-hmm. not in the actual Emmy-winning one. And I was obsessed with finding that song. And I went and ended up buying like 5 or 6 Pat Metheny CDs. And finally realized, it's a train, and there's a song called Last Train Home. That must be it. After I bought like 6 of them. But they have not been unused.
Nope.
Because I became an enormous fan of this guy because of that song and buying all these albums. His style there's a lot of the twangy style to this. It's almost Chet Atkinsy in some of his songs, but it's played with a jazz quartet or a jazz mm-hmm. trio behind him, and he has a lot of his songs actually sound like they're talking,
right?
Sometimes, specifically "Last Train Home," which sounds like a train. He's got that whole drum beat of the drummer behind him with the whole riding the rails thing and the mournful whistle almost from the train. It's just gorgeous.
It sounds tired. It sounds like a train after a long day of going back and forth on the blue line.
Right.
It sounds like, I want to rest my wheels.
It's a terrific song, and he's a terrific artist. Number 8, Pat Metheny.
Okay. Number 8 is a member of a band that I happen to adore. He's not the only member of the band that's going to wind up on my list. My number 8 is Ace Frehley. I became a fan of Ace when he was a member of Kiss. And I also became a fan of his when I was, when he left the band and a few years later started his own band, Frehley's Comet. And when I was very young, I missed out on being part of the Kiss Army when I was very young, and it was like at the height of, Kiss was everywhere. I was a little too young for that.
You were like 7.
Yeah.
I was 12 when Rock and Roll All Night hit.
Yeah.
So you had to be younger.
Yeah, I wasn't really into it when they were that hot. I knew who they were, but I wasn't, I just wasn't at the right age. As I got older and I started listening, I was like, damn, this is good. And that guy's amazing. Ace just has this way of the way he plays, it's almost like he can play so you're the only one in the room. He plays like you're the only person that's there. like he's playing exclusively for you. And there's just this really kind of quirky uniqueness to the way that he plays. And he just always had that kind of, even though they called him Space Ace, he was kind of this out there, performer, and I really love his stuff. So my number 8, Ace Frehley.
Yeah, that's a good one. I should have had him on my runners-up list too. I didn't think of him. Number 7 is the other blues artist on this list, and I've just adored him from the very first second I heard him when I was working for Transworld. I'd seen an article about him in Billboard, and I was like, okay, the girls are going to love him because he's cute. He's only 15. And the music lovers are going to love him because, man, can that kid play that thing. Johnny Lang. Johnny grabbed everybody with Lie to Me when it came out in, I think that was around 96, 95, 96. He was 15 years old, and he almost couldn't handle the fame. He had kind of a few little breakdowns here and there. And but by the time he reached his early 20s, and his third album came out, Wander This World, I believe it's called, man, this kid was just amazing. There are 2 songs of his in particular that I love because he has, even at 15, this kid had a voice that sounded like he'd been smoking a pack of Marlboros or 4 for a day his whole life. He's got this deep, husky, craggy sound, and I love that as part of his sound. But it's his guitar and the way he can make that thing wail like almost nobody can. 2 songs in particular from that third album. A great song called Touch, which has this raspy vocal behind this very sparse guitar work. And Red Light, which is one of my all-time favorite songs, both because of his vocal and his guitar work. I just never could get enough of him. I still play his stuff a couple of times a week because I just love it so much. My number 7, the inimitable Johnny Lang.
Okay. Number 7 for me is a guitarist I found out, I think probably through Metal Edge, which is how I got a lot of my...
Most of this on her list?
No, it's how I got a lot of my music in the late 80s, early 90s was reading Metal Edge and, finding bands to look out for, performers to look out for, or what have you.
Or guys to lust after.
Well, there was that.
Uh-huh. I know.
Woman needs, don't judge me.
I know. Anyway.
It's true. My number 7 is a gentleman named Gary Hoey. I realize that's a name that a lot of people might not know, which is more's the pity to them, because Gary is amazing.
Another one I should have had on my runners-up list.
Gary he's done some soundtrack work. He's got a holiday album out there called Ho Ho Hoey.
4 of them. There are 4 holiday albums out there.
Yeah. And he just does if I had to characterize one word for Gary's work, it's freedom. The way he plays is like, that feeling you would get when you were a kid and it was the last day of school, and that feeling you had when you ran out the doors and you were like, freedom! That's how Gary's music is.
He turns into William Wallace?
No.
Oh.
Just that joy. You can tell he loves what he does. And even if he's doing a slow song or a sad song or a melancholy song or whatever, there's still that I love what I'm doing vibe to what he does. Mm-hmm. I love his version of what most people just think of as the Peanuts theme, but it's called Linus and Lucy.
That's probably the most familiar because it's actually been used in a couple of sports shows, a couple of TV commercials. You'd probably know that. If you're going to have a metal version of that, it's Gary Hoey.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is absolutely awesome. He's amazing. I adore him. My number 7, Gary Hoey.
My number 6 is one of 2, maybe, acts on this list that are also frontmen for rock bands.
Okay.
I've been a fan of his since the very first album that his band put out, but I also have come to respect him as an incredible guitarist for his film work. He has done some of the most incredible scores on the planet over the last 20 years. And his work with his band Dire Straits puts Mark Knopfler in at my number 6.
Wow.
I have been a big Dire Straits fan. They first hit when I was sophomore or junior in high school with Sultans of Swing, and I loved the guitar on that from the very beginning. And I knew there was going to be something special. But when he released the soundtrack from the Irish film Cal in 1985, I was completely blown away. I listened to that album. I still listen to that album a lot. It is just an amazing piece of work. This beautiful, tinted with his native Irish sound, and it is just gorgeous. He also has done scores for movies like Local Hero and a few other things. And of course there's that, commercial crap called Money for Nothing that they had a huge hit with, that obnoxious video, which they could never play now because of a certain word used in it.
Yep.
It's
Twice.
Huh?
Twice,
yeah. He is an amazing guitarist.
3 times, I think.
Huh?
I'm just thinking. No, I'm thinking it's 3 times. I might be wrong about that.
I don't know, but it's like
numerous times.
Yeah, and it's he's just amazing, and I love to watch him play when he's on television too, because he has this way of playing where his whole body gets into the song. Whether it's a slow song like The Long Road from Cal or one of the hits that Dire Straits has had. The man is amazing. He has an album out of his best film work called Screenwriting. I think it's got bits and pieces of all of his scores, and it's awesome. Number 6, the awesome Mark Knopfler.
Okay. Number 6 on my list only goes by one name because that's all he needs. My number 6 is Slash from Guns N' Roses. Because let's face it,
Who has the best guitar solo in rock history, I think.
In November Rain?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let's face it, you have to be something special if you take the audience's attention away from Axl Rose.
It's not hard to do. Axl is only 5'2".
Wow. Okay.
Sorry, Axl. Please don't come after me yet. We're big fans.
Yeah, anyway.
Except Chinese democracy, really? All right.
Yeah,
anyway.
okay. Anyway, moving on. Seriously, when you have Axl up there who can basically, on occasion, be a screeching ball of rage, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, bless your heart, if you can get the audience to watch you're doing something amazing. And when you watch Slash play, the thing about Slash that I find so interesting, and I know this might sound like I'm selling him short, but I'm not. He makes it look so effortless. Mm-hmm. The way he plays, he's just, this guy's standing there playing guitar. It's like, he can't help that he's that awesome and you're not. It's just, that's him.
He doesn't even need that. All he needs is him and his hair.
Yeah, his hair and... yeah, dude, I don't know how you do that for, real life, because I had a spiral perm for 1 year and it was hell.
It's probably his real hair.
No, I know that's his natural hair. I'm like, damn. But the way he plays, there's so much effortless grace in the way he plays guitar. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the guitar is part of him, part of his physiognomy. So my number 6 is Slash.
Yeah, Slash is great. I mean, November Rain is a classic, and he also did a great song in the 90s. I think it was called Obsession. I think it was from a movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
it was a solo
and he
hit.
also did work with Velvet Revolver and a few other things.
He's great.
Yeah.
Number 5 on my list is going back to another area that I like, which is New Age music, and although he's not really New Age, he's more, this is what I was reading about this when I was looking at. A lot of New Age artists hate that term because they think it doesn't classify as anything. And they're kind of right, because when you have, music as eclectic as Ray Lynch and Yanni thrown in with, some of the early stuff, it's like these Friedman and William Elwood and a few other people, it's hard to discern exactly what New Age is supposed to be.
I guess.
This guy plays flamenco guitar, and it's like, I don't know if I consider it New Age. I think it's just flamenco, classic flamenco. Mm-hmm. And he melds it with jazz fusion in a lot of his stuff, and he's really terrific. My number 5 is Jesse Cook Jesse's been around since the early 90s and has just done some amazing stuff over the years. I can't think of any one particular song to bring up because I'm going to have a Spotify playlist of some of our favorite stuff up by tomorrow, so you can be listening for it. But his work is flawless. I don't care. I mean, I've seen him on stage, and I've seen him perform on PBS, on his PBS special, and he goofed on something. He was goofing around as he talked to the audience, and even that sounded good. It sounded like it should have belonged hee-haw, maybe, but it sounded good. I'm like, he is really an amazing artist, and if you've never listened to him, you need to. Number 5, flamenco guitarist Jesse Cook.
Okay. Number 5 on my list is someone from a band that should have got more respect. And part of the reason they should have got more respect is because of this person's work. My number 5 is Nuno Bettencourt. From the Boston-based band Extreme, who are awesome, and I will fight you on that, because people hear the word Extreme and, oh, you mean the More Than Words for band, and I want to slap them. Because More Than Words is a great song, don't get me wrong. They are so much more than that. They were so much more than that before More Than Words. We wore out their first album, my friend and I, and driving around in her car. We wore that sucker out playing their debut album. And part of the reason for the awesomeness of that album is Nuno Bettencourt and his amazing guitar playing, which basically is the musical equivalent of somebody grabbing you by the face and being like, you will listen to this and you will love it. And that's the way he plays it. There's so much power behind his playing, and he can play like the real breakneck, really frenetic stuff like at the beginning of Mother, I Don't Want to Go to School Today. And he can do soft, like I mentioned, with More Than Words or Wholehearted or songs like that, where it's, it's acoustic and it's different. He does everything. He runs the gamut of all, soft, fast, hard, soft, back and forth, and he can switch so effortlessly between all of those. So my number 5 favorite guitarist of all time, Nuno Bettencourt.
And you know who else is Nuno is the favorite guitarist of all time? Nuno. Anyway,
okay, so here I am trying to keep this all positive and nice vibes and stuff.
I love the guy again. Running
and
around.
You come in like a wrecking ball and just
Don't compare me to Miley Cyrus. Thank you. My number 4. I cannot believe he was not on your top 10. Actually, and it was in your runners up.
Oh.
Number 4. Rock. When it comes to rock guitarists who have done every freaking style on the planet, Eric Clapton is it.
That's what the dirty look was for.
I was like, Eric Clapton has done so many different things over the years. Back when he was with Cream and he did all that stuff, and then he was Derek and the Dominoes with the original Layla, and then he was doing his solo stuff in the 70s and 80s, which, I Shot the Sheriff, brought reggae to America, and did some great ballads like Wonderful Tonight, and then in the 90s came up with the gut-wrenching Tears in Heaven, which is just a beautiful song. Just listening to the song, even if you don't listen to the lyrics. Yeah. Watching him play that song on Unplugged.
If you don't know don't know the backstory of that song, look it up.
It was written for his son who fell out of a window of their apartment in New York when he was 4.
Yeah.
Very killed
sad.
him. It
very,
was
very tragic.
A beautiful song.
Yeah.
And he also did a few other side projects here and there. I have a CD by a band he was in called TDF. It didn't go very far. And he's done a few other things. He is a god among guitar players, and there's a reason why. No rock guitarist of that age group, of that generation, is quite as good. I like someone else better, but it's for later stuff that they did.
Okay.
Number 4, Eric Clapton.
Okay. Number 4 I'm still getting a dirty look for that. My number 4 is actually somebody that I found on YouTube. And if you have not heard...
I have to admit, she brought this up, and I realized, there's a whole bunch of people on YouTube. I totally forgot. So we'll have to do our YouTube favorites eventually.
If you don't know who the person is that goes by the handle E331eRock on YouTube, You have to find him. Now, stop listening to this and go look him up.
No, don't stop listening to do it. You can do it afterward.
Actually,
you didn't listen to this on YouTube, some of you.
That's
anyway.
a good idea, that's a good idea, because if you go to his page, you're going to be like, holy crap, how much stuff does this guy have?
Tons and tons and tons.
Yes, and it's all awesome.
Yeah, it is.
This guy plays every single solitary song you can think of with a metal beat to it, and plays guitar like he was literally born with a guitar in his hand when he came down from heaven or wherever he's from, because he's just so, I mean, he does regular rock songs and stuff like that, but his take on everything from Godzilla's theme, which I was like,
she found a cover she liked. That's amazing.
To his heavy metal version of the William Tell Overture.
And don't forget his wonderful rendition of It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yes.
Where he actually was wearing a cardigan sweater.
That's another thing about him that I love. A lot of his videos, he will dress appropriately for the video. He, like you mentioned, for It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, he had a red cardigan on.
He did the end theme too. It's such a good feeling.
Yeah, and it was awesome and sweet, and it made me cry, but I had this great big smile on my face.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Because I could just hear Fred Rogers going, that was just lovely. That was so special, and thank you for playing that, or something like, because that was just who Fred was.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I don't know your real name. I just want to go by what you're online as. I just feel like that's like etiquette. This guy is amazing. I'm like, who taught you to play guitar like this? Aliens? Because, like, did you find like a power pick, like the power ring that the Green Lanterns have, or something?
Or the laser blaster in Laser Blast?
No, that ended badly.
Oh, okay.
That ended very badly. So my number 4, 331 E-Rock. Find this person, find them now, and tell them you heard about them here on Front Row 5 and 10, because that was a cheap plug.
Yeah, it was. That was good. My number 3 is... I don't know if there's many people who know his actual work as a guitarist, because he disappeared for about 20 years. But he was in his prime when he was 12. And lately... now he is back on YouTube with brand new videos, brand new stuff, with another partner, a new partner. But at the time I first heard him, he was the reason his mentor Steve Vai created the band Bad for Good. Mm-hmm. He is Thomas McRocklin. Thomas, wow, at 12 was the leader of Bad for Good. People who remember Thomas probably remember him as little Stevie Vai in the video for the audiences listening. Mm-hmm. And so that's what led to the band, which also featured Zach Young, Brooks Walkerman, and the always awesome Danny Cooksey on vocals. They're a great band, and then he did a few solo things after leaving the band in the mid to early 90s, and then he just dropped off the face of the earth. Or so it seemed. Now he's resurfaced with 2 new albums and a great bunch of great stuff and short hair. He used to have hair down to his waist. And what I believe are his 2 daughters, often in the videos with him. He's hooked up with McRocklin and Hutch is the other one. And, oh, man, he has not lost his touch at all. Mm-hmm. I love what he does. And you can get his stuff online on YouTube. He's got his own site, which I think is just McRocklin.com. I'd have to look it up for sure. But he has not lost his touch, and he has been terrific for almost all of his life. I mean, he made his Monsters of Rock debut at 7. Mm-hmm. That's scary. Very. Number 3, Thomas McRocklin.
Okay. Number 3 on my list is someone from a band that I've already mentioned once. The reason they are so high on my list is the fact that there is nothing wrong with just being an amazing guitar player. That's great. I mean, lots of people are amazing guitar players. If you're an amazing guitar player and you're also someone who can do it with style, bonus. Now, whether or not your definition of style, as compared to my definition of style,
I was going to say, I didn't think Carson Kressley played the guitar.
Shut up. Your mileage may vary on style, but you have to give it up for somebody who's playing guitar while he's got blood pouring out of his mouth, or when he's spitting fire, and the fact that he's playing guitar on shoes that I would fall out of a chair if I tried to just sit in them. My number 3 is Gene Simmons from Kiss. Gene is a showman extraordinaire, and just trying to think of all the things that you have to do when you're playing guitar. You have to move your fingers, the fingers that are on the strings down here, the fingers that are on the frets up here. You have to do all that stuff. Now picture doing that while you're trying to sing, while you're on platform shoes that are probably putting you into a higher layer of the atmosphere.
In a costume that weighs 50 pounds.
Yes, in a costume that you could literally probably fight a dragon in, while your face is caked with makeup and you are either spitting blood or fire out of your mouth. Hopefully not both at the same time, because that would be Gene, don't do that. If you ever hear this, please don't do that.
Will it make me money? I'll do it if it make me money.
Stop that! That's not
I'm Gene Simmons, and I'm coming for your wallet.
Stop it! Oh my gosh, you're so mean. Oh my gosh. So
the man made a deal with WCW, for Pete's sake. How desperate money grabbing was that? Okay?
These are the dark periods, and we don't talk about them. Never happened.
Oh, sure it did.
I just think that I love watching Gene play guitar because he is amazing to watch. Just watching him up on stage, having so much fun, and you can tell. And I love his work. I love him. I think he's nuts, and I'm attracted to crazy people, which explains a lot.
Yes, it does, especially with me.
Yes, but you're my kind of crazy.
Okay, fine.
My number 3, Gene Simmons.
My number 2 is a man who has had 2 different phases of his career, and he was terrific in all of them. He started because he started playing initially because he had been in a car accident, and people told him it would help him get his strength back to start learning. He'd already been playing for a while, but it wasn't serious until then. By the time he was 15, he was on stage in San Francisco with some of the biggest bands of the late 60s and early 70s, and was a staunch member of all 3 versions of the band he's best known for: Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship. Oh, he wasn't. Well, Airplane was later. Jefferson Starship and Starship. He came on board full time with Jefferson Starship on their Red Octopus tour. He was like 21, and then stayed for the albums and everything for 20 years. When that band broke up, he turned for a completely different music, and I rediscovered his talent all over again. I am possibly the world's hugest fan of Craig Chiquiso.
It's true.
Have been a fan of his music since his first New Age album came out. Now he's mixed that with he's got a couple of blues albums out as well. And oh my God, this man there are songs he does that make me cry. This is not an easy thing to do. And some of them are just really crazy little in-between songs. Great little jazz number he does called Circus Beach on one of his albums that's terrific. Streetwise is another song that I love by him. And then, of course, I've totally forgotten the title of it, but we actually had Eric Lyon do an adaptation of it for, I think it's called Four Corners, for one of our Subject Cinema themes. I adore Craig's music. He writes beautiful stuff. He works with Russ Freeman quite a bit, and they've done some duet albums together. And like I said, the last couple of albums he's done have been blues. And he doesn't tour. He barely tours. I never get to see him. I would be so much in the front row if he ever came to Boston. I would love to see him up close and personal. Number 2, the awesome, legendary, and always we're not worthy Craig Chiquiso.
Okay.
And that's not even number one.
The number 2 person on my list of my favorite guitar players, there's really nobody else like him, and his guitar playing complemented the lead singer of this band, who was one of the most amazing vocalists in the world. So it only makes sense that one of the most amazing vocalists in the world would work with one of the most amazing guitar players in the world. My number 2 is Brian May from Queen.
Absolutely.
Listening to Brian play, again, the word that comes to mind, again, with Brian, like other people on this list, is effortless. He makes it look so easy. And just watching him play on a song like, something like Bohemian Rhapsody or Somebody to Love. I mean, you've got that whole the whole bridge in the middle of Somebody to Love. Mm-hmm. I love that part.
Yeah.
And I just love his guitar playing. There's so much exuberance when he plays. And sometimes there's exuberance in the upbeat songs. And if it's a song that so rips your heart to pieces, something like Who Wants to Live Forever, everybody knows George Harrison's While My Guitar Gently Weeps. His guitar sounds like it's crying in that song. And that song makes me cry anyway. He just embodies class as well. I really think he embodies class. My number 2, Brian May.
We had the opportunity to see Brian May live when he played with Adam Lambert and Queen here in Boston a couple, 3-4 years ago.
Yep.
Oh my God, what a show.
Oh, yeah.
It was just terrific. And Adam Lambert
minds,
is the perfect substitute for Freddie Mercury.
There will never be anyone that will fill Freddie's shoes.
No,
but Brian,
Adam is quite adequate at coming close, yes.
Yep.
My number 1 is a man that I got practically his entire library. I love his stuff. And there are certain songs I like better than others, but I like pretty much everything. And he blasted onto this scene in 89 or 90 and just kind of took over heavy metal instrumental rock and has been the king of that since that time. Now, of course, he looks more like Stone Cold Steve Austin than he used to with his little long hair. But it has not affected Joe Satriani's playing at all. Oh my God, I love Joe. He is so good. His last album produced this great song called Cherry Blossoms that I play all the time.
Anybody who puts the Silver Surfer on one of the covers, doesn't that?
Yeah, Surfing with the Alien. Yeah. His stuff, he can do. Engines of Creation, which was his album from 99, 2000, it was actually kind of experimental because a lot of the stuff sounded like it was more a synthesizer, but it was all guitar. And I love that album. I love Surfing with the Alien. The more recent albums he's done are all terrific. I could easily come up with a top 20 list of my favorite Satriani songs. We could be here all night. Crowd Chant, adore. On Peregrine Wings, more recent stuff. Wormhole Wizards, If I Could Fly, which I adore and can't go back. This guy's awesome. I don't think I'd ever go to a concert because it's a little bit rowdy for what I can handle anymore because I'm getting old here, people.
Then people would be going, ew, who put
for the
their
same
mom
reason
and dad?
I wouldn't go to another guy that should have been on the runners-up list that I did consider and I forgot to write him down. I wouldn't go to an Andrew WK concert either,
No.
as much as I love him. But I'm...
We'd get killed.
Yeah, we'd get killed. We both love him.
We're not built for moshing anymore, babe.
No, I'm afraid not. But I adore Joe Satriani. He is just the greatest, and that is why he is at number 1 on my list.
Okay, that's awesome. The person at number 1 on my list of my favorite guitarists is a person that I know when I say his name, most people, unfortunately, are going to go, who?
I'm going to have to get my cue here, okay?
No, you know who he is.
I know, but you have somebody to do it.
Listen to this name, file it away in your brain, go find his stuff, And thank me once you hear it.
I think I know who it is.
My number 1, Michael Lee Firkins.
Who?
Yeah. You know who he is.
I do know who he is, yes.
Because I played his stuff and I went, oh my gosh, I have to share this with everybody!
She sent me some of his stuff before I moved up here. Mm-hmm. And oh my god, he's awesome.
Yeah. Michael, I definitely found through Metal Age because he definitely had, the long hair and the whole thing, and I was like, ooh, hello. But his debut album, which just has some of the most amazing tracks on it, stuff like 24 Grand Avenue, Sargasso Sea, which I love, Space Crickets, Hula Hoops, Rain in the Tunnel. These songs are unbelievably good. And he also does, he does rock, he does blues, he does a little bit of everything, and he's so freaking awesome. And it is a crime, a sin, and a tragedy that more people do not know about Michael Lee Firkins. So go out and find his stuff right now, because I told you to. So my number 1, the amazing, the awesome, the criminally underheard, but that's going to change now, isn't it? My number 1, Michael Lee Firkins. Remember that name.
Yep. Okay, running back up again. Top 10 favorite guitarists.
Yes.
Number 10, Eric Johnson. Number 9, Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Number 8, Pat Metheny. Number 7, Johnny Lang. Number 6, Mark Knopfler. Number 5, Jesse Cook. Number 4, Eric Clapton. Number 3, Thomas McLaughlin. Number 2, Craig Chicaso, depends on who you talk to. And number 1, Joe Satriani.
Okay, my list of top 10 favorite guitarists. Number 10, Prince. Number 9, Eric Brittenham. Number 8, Ace Frehley. Number 7, Gary Hoey. Number 6, Slash. Number 5, Nuno Bettencourt. Number 4, 331 E-Rock. Number 3, Gene Simmons. Number 2, Brian May. And my number 1 favorite guitarist, Michael Lee Firkins.
You know who's not on either one of our lists that I just realized we both forgot?
Yngwie Malmsteen?
Well, I like Yngwie, but sometimes he gets a little bit too crazy for me, too.
Okay.
Richie Kotzen.
I almost put Richie
I like Richie, too.
I almost put Richie on here. I almost put Blues Sacramento on here, too.
Yeah. It's like there's so many good stuff.
There's so many.
There's so many out there, guys.
KJ and Jeff, you guys gave us like a real heavy thing to do this week. A lot of heavy lifting.
From Great Wrestling Radio.
Yeah.
Thank you for suggesting this.
Thank you.
And get your information to Kim so I can send you your $20 Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
And if you guys would like to win a $20 Amazon gift card or some other great prize, suggest an idea for a countdown. Mm-hmm. You do that by sending the idea to me, preferably at frontrow@PNRNetworks.com.
Yep.
You can also contact us through Twitter. Kim is at Platinum Rose L, and I am at eCinemaOne and eCinemaBoston.
Yep. And hopefully you'll check out all the other shows that are part of our little island of misfit toys.
Yep, we got all kinds of great shows. Subject Cinema, Front Row 5 and 10, this show. Tuesday Digidex and 3 Minute Weekend are our movie mini shows.
Yep, I have a couple of solo shows, Ring Around the Rosie, which is my wrestling podcast, and Platinum Rose's Garden, which is my supernatural podcast. You can look back over season 14 episodes and looking forward to season 15, which is beginning next month. I need a drink.
If you check out our website at PNRNetworks.com, you'll also have access to one of the shows we don't do anymore that's still up. The always awesome Mirrorball Mayhem, our Dancing with the Stars podcast we did for several years. Mm-hmm. We've also got other stuff. I've got my solo show, Catastrophe Vortex, all about disaster movies. Kirkham Report stuff, music-wise, coming soon again, along with a couple of other things we're working on. Mm-hmm. And original productions that are a part of our latest project, Your Imagination Theater. Mm-hmm. The first two are under PNR Premiere, Manhattan Hammerdown, As It Happened, our Cloverfield 10th Anniversary Tribute, and War of the Worlds 2018, our 80th Anniversary Tribute to that. Plus, we have a new one coming in October.
Yes. So I think that's going to do it for another week.
And don't forget, if you get a chance and you like what you hear, to please come over and become a patron on Patreon.
Yep. And like, share, and subscribe.
Yep. Patreon is patreon.com/PNR Networks, and it benefits all of us, all of our sites, all of our shows. If you're not familiar with them, drop by our websites at eCinemaOne, eCinemaBoston, the Kirkham Report, Platinum Rose's Garden,
and the shows that are other.
And we also have 3 shows eventually on Patreon that will be Patreon exclusive. Kim's Kaiju Corner is up with 3 episodes already. We have the other 2 that we're still trying to get off the ground.
Yep. And there's also other parts of our little family, including Eric and Valerie over at Cavebabble.
And Anthony Lamberti and Comic Grotto.
Yes, and that's on YouTube.
So,
I think we're done.
I think we're done too.
So for another week here on Front Row 5 and 10, I'm Kim Brown.
I'm TC Kirkham.
And we hope we can count on you to come back next week and help us count up another list of hits.
Count on it.
You've been listening to Front Row 5 and 10 with Kim Brown and TC Kirkham.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.